Hi and welcome to our new episode. As you can hear, we'll be doing this podcast in English, and that's because we are very happy and we're honored to have Sander with us today. And Sander is he works at Luminous, and he is a very often speaking at different conferences. We kind of meet most of the time everywhere else but the place we live, I guess. And it's very nice to have you here. And you're also author of the book, Java modularity book, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And today you'll be having a workshop with us as well about the, kind of Java modularity. One thing will be one of the topics, but there will be some other things as well, right?
Yeah.
And my name is Rustam. I work here at Computas as a consultant and chief engineer. And
I'm Mats. I'm also working in Computas as tech lead.
Cool. Okay, so now we're done with the introductions. So now let's tell us a few words about what's going to happen.
Yeah, sure. So what we see is that Java is moving faster than ever, right? So we're getting new releases every 6 months. And the interesting thing that happens is that currently most of the people are still developing on Java 8. And I think that's sort of logical given the history of Java, but it's also something that people need to start thinking about. So in the workshop that I'm doing today, I'm going to be looking at all the major features that have been introduced since Java 8. So one of those is the module system, like you talked about. But there are others as well, and also many API changes and things like that. And in the workshop, I'm going to take people through all these features and show what they can do for you and why you want to think about moving beyond Java 8.
And just a few words just before, so to to our listeners and who are, just to explain a bit, give a little bit of a context. So. The Java is moving faster, and why is that? That's because we kind of changed the way the releases are handled, right? Because now we're doing it every 6 months.
Yeah, it used to be that there's these big and large releases, right? So we had Java 6 and 7 and 8, and they had like 3 or 4 years between them. And we also saw that these releases got pushed back because some features weren't ready. True. It was even recently. Yes. And what the JDK team said is, this isn't really working in a world where everyone should move faster, right? And so they sort of switched to a time-based release schedule where every 6 months there will be now a major release of Java. And whatever is ready will be in that release, and what's not ready, very agile, will come in the next release. So this makes it much more predictable in the sense that we know every 6 months we will get a new Java release. Yeah. What's less predictable is what's in there, of course.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. But then also I saw some kind of discussion on Twitter that where I think we just talked about that a bit earlier before we started recording, was that even though you don't have that much of predictability, but you still kind of more or less know that it will be quite a few JAPs, kind of new features, new things coming up every half a year. Yeah. So I think the numbers, what was that, around 10-ish plus minus?
Yeah.
So if you wait like you all did with the old days for, I don't know, a year or two, you will be, 4 versions back and around 40 features-ish, main features.
Could very well be, and these could even be deprecations and removals, of features. So things might actually break for a change. And that's a pretty big difference with how Java evolved previously. So yeah, definitely. Yeah,
that is true.
Yeah.
So what kind of things? Modules. I think we'll save modules a little bit for later.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
And then we can try to pick up everything else. Everything.
Well, that's about 100 plus JAPs, so let's not do that. But so I think one of the most important things are the API changes, right? It's not even new language features, but also very useful additions like collection factory methods. They're a really small thing if you think about it, but in practice, I use these a lot. So what you used to do is you had to create some kind of collection. You need to think about, is it an array list or a linked list or whatever, and then you have a collection and you need to call add to add all the elements that you want. Whereas in different languages like Scala and Groovy, you can just easily create a single collection with very nice syntax. Yeah. So what they did, they added in Java 9 these collection factory methods where you could say list.of and then just pass in all the elements that you want to have in the list, and you don't need to think about the actual type of the list. The factory will just figure out the best implementation for you. And same for set-off and map-off. So these kind of things really help you as a developer in your day-to-day work. So first, I'll be talking about API changes. Then there's also on the
one addition to that.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think that list of and set of and this, they are immutable, right?
True. Yeah. So that's also a big difference.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So everything that's happening currently in Java APIs actively encourages immutability, like in languages Scala was the case already. This is something that's moving more and more into Java as well, which is a good thing.
Because I'm working on a Java 8 project right now, and we're using like Guava or some external library to do this kind of things. I think most people do.
True. Yeah.
You usually use it, and at some point it will kind of come around and bite you, breaking everything, and then you kind of it's kind of yes, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, especially like in multi-threaded code and stuff like that, it can come back to haunt you. So
yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I was saying, I mean, there's API changes like that. Also the introduction, for example, of a new HTTP client, which is very nice in my opinion, and really can compete with things like Apache HTTP client and OK HTTP, but without having to have an external dependency, right? But what's also interesting is that there are some additions in terms of tooling around the Java ecosystem. So one very cool addition to the platform is JShell, which is an interactive shell where you can just enter some Java code and then it will be evaluated directly and you get feedback and you can iterate and you can change the code and you can really play around with new APIs. You can start exploring code. And again, this is a feature that isn't unique to Java. It was already there for Groovy and then for Scala. But now we can do the same thing just with exact Java syntax. So you don't have to translate in your head anymore between these different JVM languages and Java
And this
code.
is kind of, for me, it's like the feature that you kind of missed in a bit because whenever, I mean, well, I don't always write Java. So like whenever I end up writing something else, it would be, most of the case, it would be Python. And then instead of writing that code, you will end up kind of trying it out first and then see how it works and how it behaves and stuff. And then you put it into kind of your code base in a way. And that's kind of feature that was a bit missing.
And it's so seamless, right? And now we have it in Java as well.
It's very nice. It's very smooth.
Yeah, and in the same vein, in Java 11, for example, they added a feature to actually just directly launch a Java source file rather than first having to compile it and then running this class file. You can now, if you have a single source file with like a script or a small thing that you want to try out, you can just say Java and then my source file.java, and it will just compile it for you in the background and then run it, which isn't really shocking, but it's convenient, right? It's just really helpful.
A few clicks, a few kind of type,
definitely.
And for a world where like we're heading into more and more serverless and microservices and even smaller services all the time, those kind of things are great.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's cool. But any other features that you want to mention to begin with, and then we can go a bit more, because one of the things I really want to talk about is that, which is kind of probably would be relevant for quite a few of the listeners, is that, I'm having a Java 8 project. Well, hopefully 8. I really hope it's not 6 or 7
I've even
or
seen
something.
7 or 6 in the wild still.
But, but it's like, I'm having 8 or below. And what now? How do I kind of move on? That's one of the things I really wanted to talk about. I think it would be,
So what we see there is that with the new release schedule of Java, people sort of started waiting it out, right? Ooh, it's a big change. What's happening? Let's just wait and let's just stay on Java 8 because we like it works, and why change? Well, I can tell you why to change, because in January of 2019, so this year, actually the Oracle JDK, which like 70 or 80% of the people who are running Java in production are actually using, the Oracle JDK has been end of public support. And this means that if you're currently running this Oracle JDK in production, you have two choices. Either you keep running it without any security patches and updates, which is not a really great idea, or you would have to buy extended support from Oracle to keep using Oracle JDK 8 and keep on using this version of Java that you're using. And this is really something that's new in the ecosystem. Now, of course, there are choices that you have, right? So Oracle JDK 8 is based on OpenJDK 8, the open source project. And there are different distributions from various vendors for OpenJDK 8. Like Red Hat has one, Amazon surprisingly also created a distribution with Corrado, exactly. So you could either migrate from Oracle JDK 8 to one of these OpenJDK 8 versions. But then again, the question you should ask yourself is, okay, do I really want to put this effort into sort of a migration while still staying on Java 8? And why not go to a newer version of Java and pick that up as a migration?
And then we're kind of hitting the funny area of the licenses and stuff.
Yeah, true. So going forward, people are used to just using Oracle JDK. Oracle JDK has now become a paid version of Java. But at the same time, Oracle has also made sure that OpenJDK is now in complete sync with Oracle JDK. So there's no functional difference between the OpenJDK distributions and Oracle's JDK, which is good, right? So going forward, you would typically, if you don't want to have some kind of license deal with Oracle, you would typically pick one of the OpenJDK vendors, which could be either like Red Hat, Amazon Corrado, or even adopt OpenJDK, which is a community effort to do JDK distributions. But then you have yet another choice to make, and that has everything to do with the fact that you can either start moving to new releases when they come out, like every 6 months, and then you're fully patched and fully up to date, and everything's great. Or you can choose to stay on a so-called long-term support version.
Because every third version would
every
be
sixth version.
Sorry.
Because every 3 years.
Always, I get that always confused.
So you would move from Java 8 to Java 11, which is the first LTS release after Java 8. And again, there are various vendors who offer this support either commercially, like Oracle or Azure, or for free. And parties like Adopt OpenJDK and Amazon Corrado are doing that. So then you would have sort of the same cadence as you would have before the new release schedule of Java, right? So about every 3 years, you get to introduce a new version. Now it will be 8 to 11, and then it will be 11 to 17, and so on and so forth. Or you have the choice to be more agile, right? And be more on the leading edge and just adopt the new versions of Java while they come out every 6 months. And whether you can do that really depends on your context, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So if you're a DevOps team and you're in full control of the Docker image that you're pushing to production, then it's much easier to keep up with Java and just start using these new releases. It's almost like using a new library version, right? But if you're in a enterprise Java shop with a different ops team and slow moving processes, then it's a different story, definitely. So then it might be wiser to look at the LTS migration path.
And I guess it's important to kind of underline again that it's like, unless you really want to kind of have a license deal with any of the vendors, or especially Oracle, you should not use it past Java 8.
Exactly.
And then just, for production. So for testing and development, that's a different story. But for production, you will have to pay license fees if you have to, if you will go for Java 9 and so on. So it's a good kind of important thing to underline, so people don't do that. Up to you.
Sure.
That's cool. Are there any things that kind of, in your opinion, that kind of stop people from migrating? What is like the main pain points?
So there's a pretty big change going from Java 8 to Java 9 and later, which is the fact that a module system has been introduced in Java. And it's fully optional from an application development perspective, but the JDK itself has been modularized. That's just a fact. And that has some side effects, even for applications running on the class path, if you're moving from Java 8 to Java 11 or later. And a few of these side effects are, for example, that there used to be lots of Java EE APIs and implementations secretly inside of the Java SE JDK. These have been deprecated in Java 9 and actually have been removed in Java 11. So if your application has an implicit dependency on these technologies being there in the JDK, then you need to fix this in terms of adding this dependency. What's even more interesting is that because of the modularization of the JDK, Now, a lot of internal implementation details of the JDK have been strongly encapsulated.
That's right.
And if you're running your application as modules on top of this new version of Java, then the rules of the module system will forbid you to use these internal implementation details, which is good, right? In terms of you don't want to depend on these things. But, well, this just happened in the 20 years that Java now existed. And lots of, well, mostly library code, but also some application code just took dependencies on these internal implementation details. Now it's time to clean it up, right? To pay back the technical debt. However, if you're running your application not as modules, but just as a plain class path application on Java 11 or later, then you're a bit more lucky in the sense that the rules are a bit more lenient, and you might see some warnings that you didn't see before because of libraries or your application using these internal APIs. But it won't break yet. But at a future point in a new release of Java, I think the knobs will be turned, and even on the class path, things will be more regulated and more strongly encapsulated, because in the end, the reason why they modularized the JDK was to evolve the platform and to prevent people from using these internal details.
And I guess also to reduce the footprint as well, right? With all the microservices.
Also a little bit of that, yeah, definitely. Yeah, these are two main issues that you might run into when moving your current application on the class path to a newer version of Java.
And you also mentioned another, well, kind of the same thing, but also all the kind of the ecosystem around it that we're not really ready for that.
Yeah, that's true. For example, when they are your application server only supports Java 8, then what can you do?
Yeah. So the most current Java EE release, Java EE 8, is aligned with Java SE 8. So what we see is that most of the application servers currently are looking at supporting a newer version of Java, not necessarily taking advantage yet of all the new features, but at least just running on Java 11. I think the next Red Hat JBoss EAP Wi-Fi, whatever it's called nowadays, will actually support Java 11, for example. But yeah, if you're in the EE space, things are moving a bit slower. That's true in terms of newer Java versions.
Yeah, and also like libraries and such, but because everyone is part of the same.
Yeah, so yeah, talking in terms of libraries, I mean, the biggest change for libraries came when Java 9 came out, right? Because that introduced the change that we just talked about. And we've had Java 9 for about more than a year now. And all the big libraries have actually now support running on Java 11 and later. So most of the big boys like Spring, Hibernate, all the bytecode manipulation libraries, they're pretty on point. So I don't see that many issues with if you're at least on the current version of these libraries. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So I guess we're running a little bit of out of time. So one last thing you want to say, like some kind of call to action, something to like people
definitely.
out there.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah, so what we discussed today is actually really important, right? If you're on Java 8, you really need to start making plans on how to move beyond that. And either to a version of Java 8 that's actually supported, which is a short-term solution in my opinion, but especially looking at how to migrate beyond Java 8 to at least version 11, which is the new long-term support version. And there's lots to learn there because of the new release schedule, because of all the new features and so on. But it's really, I mean, time is ticking in that sense. So start looking at what you can do today, I would say.
Just start a small thing and start like one little thing and one little step at a time.
Or take one of your applications and see what it does when you run it on Java 11 or later, and just try to upgrade the libraries and see what happens then.
See what happens.
That's definitely.
I think that's a very good idea. When I mentioned earlier that we're going to talk about the module systems, that is still true, but we're going to talk about that in the next episodes. I think I'll say thank you for now, and
you're welcome.
We'll continue the discussion in the next episode, and then we'll go a little bit deeper into the some of the aspects of that modular system. Thank you again for coming. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye bye.